Personal militar de ningún país en el territorio de otro país. Esa es nuestra posición de principio. Y nuestra, de todos, de los revolucionarios, de los patriotas, será la misma suerte.
This is a new day. Es un nuevo día between our two countries.
Cuba is a country famed for the warmth and the creative resilience of its people, and for decades of repression and a frozen economy. A different world in pace and politics, but one that is not a world away. Only 40 minutes from Miami, and now rapidly opening to American tourists and trade. A country poised for an enormous transition full of promise and uncertainty. For 1 week in March, Cuba opened its doors to the United States, and America stepped across the threshold in a big way.
Havana is only 90 miles from Florida, but to get here we had to travel a great distance, over barriers of history and ideology, barriers of pain and separation. I have come here to bury the last remnant of the Cold War in the Americas. I have come here to extend the hand of friendship to the Cuban people.
There was baseball. There were banquets. And as the week drew to a close, there was rock and roll.
Cuba. Aquí estamos finalmente, Estamos seguros que esta será una noche inolvidable.
There's already an evolution taking place inside of Cuba, a generational change.
Obama just leaving Havana, and now Rolling Stone just coming. Something very, very exciting.
To understand Cuba now and the challenges to come, it's necessary to take a quick look back. For many Americans, Cuba is a caricature more than a country. On January 1st, 1959, Fidel Castro overthrew the US-backed incumbent leader, General Fulgencio Batista, and established a socialist government controlled by a communist party. Castro took charge and appointed his brother, Raúl Castro, and Che Guevara as second and third in command. One of the regime's first actions was to seize all of US-owned businesses and property without compensation. The United States responded by establishing an embargo on October 19, 1960. In April 1961, the CIA backed an attempted invasion at the Bay of Pigs. The effort failed, and Cuba turned to the Soviet Union for support and protection. 1 year later, the CIA learned that nuclear-tipped missiles had been installed in Cuba. On the brink of a nuclear conflict, the United States and the USSR negotiated a deal that removed the warheads, and tensions eased. the US maintained the embargo and Cuba continued to rely on the Soviets. With the collapse of the USSR in 1991, Cuba found itself without the support of a major world power for the first time since the Spaniards colonized the island. Cuba was propelled into a time known for chronic shortages. The era, with no lack of irony, was called the Periodo Especial, or Special Period. A 1993 documentary by Ed Evans captured the feel of the times.
These people were waiting for pieces of bread. Others would stand in long lines for 2 heads of cabbage. Milk is in very short supply.
Cuba says what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And the special period helped teach us that. It helped us develop. That's why Cubans are so hardworking, because out of necessity, we had to move forward. That was an important thing in Cuba, the special period. Help us be creative. We had to be creative to survive. We had to work with what we had. We were creative with what we had to eat and with transportation.
One benefit of the frozen economy was accidental historic preservation. Architectural development stopped in 1959, Havana was preserved, and nothing new was built. Currency and the economy were also stuck in time.
Cubans are paid the equivalent of about $20 American a month. Your bellhop is an engineer, and your chambermaid is probably a concert pianist. With your degree in neurosurgery, you're going to make $20 a month for the rest of your life.
2 currencies shouldn't separate the type of salaries that Cubans can earn.
Also locked in time, more disturbingly, is the Cuban government's response to dissent. Even as Air Force One winged its way to Havana, authorities were making dozens of arrests. Unrelenting suppression of protesters is a critical issue for many American supporters of the embargo.
The president should witness their bravery, listen to their stories, feel their despair, see the fear under which they live.
New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez, who is the son of Cuban immigrants, has sharply differed with President Obama over Cuban relations.
Opening channels of communications controlled by the regime means nothing unless we are going to communicate our values. It means nothing if we do not champion the material changes that the Cuban people seek. It means nothing if we do not speak the language that the Castros understand, that the communist revolution has failed miserably, and it's time to let the Cuban people decide their future.
But Melinda Lopez, who is the daughter of Cuban immigrants, finds more hope in the moment and in the president's efforts.
So I was watching Obama's speech on the couch, and I thought it was a great speech. I teared up a few times, and I thought he just struck exactly the right tone of reconciliation and generosity and love. And then he said my name.
You see it in Melinda Lopez, who came to her family's old home. And as she was walking the streets, an elderly woman recognized her as her mother's daughter and began to cry.
The hope I felt in hearing his speech came from a couple of places. One, he was so honest, and he didn't set up the U.S. to be this savior. He talked really frankly about the challenges that we have as a country, and he wasn't setting the U.S. up as the answer.
While they wait for their leaders to act, Cubans are doing what they always have done, pursuing progress from the ground up.
This is the place we have been working for 18 years. It was supposed to be a sports complex, but for economic reasons that could not be possible. We started growing vegetables in only 800 square meters. Slowly, during the years, we started expanding, and today we have 25 acres. For years, we've been the top providers of mint for tourism. Our mint helps produce 7,000 mojitos daily, and the mint is fresh and people are confident that they are consuming a product that is free of chemicals. And many people from Havana come here for a mint. I think tourism is going to be of great benefit to us. It lifts a weight from our shoulders by helping develop our economy. Also, it is an incentive to work harder, and we appreciate the worth of our work.
Pressure on such farms will build as expanding tourism increases demand for food. Some entrepreneurs are ready to help. Next year, if all goes well, an Alabama company, Clever LLC, will begin building the first American manufacturing plant in Cuba since 1959, turning out hundreds of small, versatile tractors designed for Cuba's 40-acre farms. The company was launched by 2 retired software engineers, one Cuban-born. But expanded trade will be needed as well, according to American farmers and farm state lawmakers. They are pushing hard to end the embargo, eager to sell staples like soybeans and grains.
You know, an issue that we always look at is rice. The U.S. grows a lot of rice. In fact, Cuba was once one of our largest rice markets. And our growers in the lower Mississippi Valley, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, look at Cuba as a market they really want this to sell to.
Cubans in the last 60 years have been a lack of everything. Cubans, they like to dress nice, they like to have everything. Even with 60 years of lack of nothing, the researchers, the people, everybody have to redesign how we will be like consumers.
A major focus of the White House and American business leaders is identifying ways to nurture Cuba's genius for homegrown entrepreneurship.
Today, about 500,000 Cubans, including some of you, are proud cuentapropistas, running your own restaurants, cafes, beauty salons, barbershops, or working as artists, seamstresses, and taxi drivers. Here today, we're doing even more to empower Cuban entrepreneurs. I know you've been networking with each other and potential American partners. Innovators in business like Airbnb's Brian Chesky are sharing the lessons that they've learned.
I met another host last night, and she said, we open our doors, we open our hearts, and what we care most about is not just the money we make, but the friendships we make. And they used to say that they had a lot of misconceptions about Americans, and it's hard to have misconceptions about Americans when you actually host them in your homes. And the same thing's true with Americans, and I think people all over the world. I think there's hundreds of thousands of new friendships that are possible if we can bring people together.
But I also think Brian's a good example of the power of the internet and why having an internet infrastructure is so important.
For centuries, Cuba has had a vibrant social network along its waterfront. That thirst for connectivity is now spilling online wherever there is a Wi-Fi hotspot. But for the moment, Cuba's minimal communications and internet infrastructure and questions about government control continue to delay progress.
The internet should be available across the island so that Cubans can connect to the wider world and to one of the greatest engines of growth in human history. If you can't access information online, if you cannot be exposed to different points of view, you will not reach your full potential. And over time, the youth will lose hope.
On the top of a hill in Havana, where a community group turned an abandoned water tank into an art school, that eagerness for connecting with the wider world is on vivid display.
He started here as a student. Now he's 24, he's been here with us for 10 years. And he's our teacher of moonmaking.
I believe that this is very important because a kid's vision, reflected through a camera, through cinema, is incredible. You give a kid a camera and you let their personal vision show you what they see, and the results are amazing. I think unfortunately we live in a country where we have limited internet access. I wish that the work that my students do could be seen by the world. That we could get feedback and exchange comments with other people around the world. And not having the internet accessible to all Cubans limits us.
As Cuba reconnects with America, huge investments will be needed to expand and modernize everything from power plants and sanitation to hotels and airports.
I've been working with American groups for the past 3 years now. It's changed a lot, really. We've had, in 2012 or 2013, we had, I would say, 150 groups. This year we're up to almost 1,000 groups flying to Cuba, yeah. So it's changed as the years go by. It's moved up to, you know, we went up to like 300, 400 last year. It's getting pretty popular.
I believe that it is possible. I believe that the country is prepared, or at least getting ready to prepare to receive North American tourism. And it'll help in the future if it's done in a controlled, planned, and organized manner.
Ultimately, another challenge will be preserving the charm of what has been saved by accidents of history.
I mean, we like it as a tourist, like this, and I wouldn't like to... I like McDonald's, but I like it in my country, but I wouldn't like a McDonald's here.
It may end up being another Miami, full of mega hotels, and will completely change the scheme of what this country truly is.
American politicians and business leaders who are eager to expand trade with Cuba say the ball is in Castro's court.
I know I hear from the business community, both in ag and the other parts of business, they're kind of waiting for the Cubans to respond. You know, are they willing to come out of isolation? They want other countries to make changes. What are they willing to do? Are they willing to embrace modern business systems? All these things that go along with having trade, with being part of the business world, which would allow those exchanges, are they willing to do that? I think it'll take them a while. They have, you know, if they're really, I think, going to develop a economy that is going to flourish and bring more things to their people, they have to embrace the world as it is. Not maybe the world they think they would like it to be.
In mid-April, at Cuba's 7th Communist Party Congress, President Castro and others made it clear Cuba will remain a single-party nation.
We can't go backwards. We can't go back. We can't shut down things that we have opened. It's good for the U.S. to have this relationship open and free and have people going back and forth and talking to each other. It's really important for the Cuban people to know that we are behind them. That's my hope.
As a young Cuban, I feel that I had the pleasure to live, or will be able to experience, a very special time for all of us. A time of change, one that we've been waiting for a long time. For us, it was an honor that your president, Obama, came to Cuba. It is an honor that the Rolling Stones were here in Cuba. It's like Cuba is opening up right now to the world in a way it had not been before. We were invisible.
Difícil escuchar nuestra música aquí en Cuba. Pero aquí estamos, ¿eh? Tocando para ustedes en su linda tierra. Pienso que finalmente los tiempos están cambiando. Es verdad, ¿no? Ahora es la canción Votado.
Hey guys.
You're the coolest, yeah.
We're waiting for Obama in Cuba. Have our left. Bye.